Off the 20th chapter of the book of Mishlei, Leitz Hayayin Homesh Shechar, V'chol Shogebo Lo Yechkam. Wine is a scoffer, right? So wine scoffs you, and strong drink even more so. And the person who is confused, the person who is muddled by them, will not grow wise, whether that be somebody who's permanently drunk, whether that be somebody who's only drunk only drunk for a moment, or whether it's sort of like a way on life that you're confused and you don't ask people for suggestions. You don't listen to him. Nam kakfir imat melech mit abro chote nafsho. The terror of king is like the roar of a lion. He who provokes his anger risks his life. We had basically the same phrase in the last chapter. Kavod leish shevet meriv v'chol avil yitlaga. It's honorable for man to stay away from riv, to stay away from fights. But every fool just gets roped right in. Don't triangulate me into your problems. Allow me to stay away. Smart thing to do, the honorable thing to do is not to get into people's strifes and problems. Now, if you have a talent, if you're a moderator, if you're somebody who was able and figures out way to help people with their problems, then maybe that is an exception to the rule. But by that point, you probably have to be very much a chacham, as this book says. Mechoref atzeh lo yacharosh, v'sha'al b'katzir va'ayin. In winter, the lazy man does not plow, and when the harvest comes, he's sha'al, he's looking, he's asking, but there is nothing to harvest. This is something we've seen many times. You got to prepare, you got to work. And whether that's, related to the crops and the agriculture, or whether that's related to the wisdom, or whether that's related to getting a good place in heaven, it's all through preparation. It doesn't just appear. Yid Lena, the designs in man's mind are deep waters, but a man of understanding can draw them out. I don't remember the exact amount, but how much of our brains do we use? 8% or 9% or something of that sort, right? So somewhere deep is fabulous ideas and wonderful ideas. But if you train yourself, I don't know that you can use more of your brain, but maybe you can make better connections, and you'll have the ability to dig deep into the wells, deep into the waters, to find the ideas. We're in verse 6, Pasuk Vav, Rav Adam Yikraish Chasto Vish Emunim Miimsa. He calls many a man his loyal friend, but who can find a faithful man? So, right, there are many people who, rely upon friends and, ask them, can you pick my kid up? Can you drive them somewhere? Can you bring me over an egg? I don't have enough eggs, and the grocery store is closed, or something like that. But when push comes to shove, who are you going to be able to depend on? Who are you going to be able to find when you're really in dire straits? The righteous man lives with like a tamim. We've had this word a number of times, without blame, purely, and therefore happy are his children who come after him. Ashrei vanav, right? The word ashrei, praiseworthy are his children, and they are happy because presumably that's what they will learn. And we know this is the case. Behavior, not just genetics, but behavior. You grow up in a certain environment, and that impacts you generally. 90%. Some people like to reject that environment, but if you grow up in a beautiful environment, and beautiful, I'm not talking about the luxury, but I'm talking about the way people act, the way your parents act, the way your family acts, what they teach you. Generally, it leads, not always, but generally can lead to an easier, more manageable life and a praiseworthy life. Melech Yoshev al Kizei Din, Nizarev Einav Kol Ra. The king is seated on the throne of judgment, can winnow out all evil by his glance, right? Just he can go and he can take it like we're winnowing crops, and shakes it, and all the sheaf, right, goes flying away. He can see through anything. He can see everything. Mi Omar Zakiti Libi. Taharti mechatatai. Who can say, I have gone and I have cleansed my heart. I am now a zakai. Yes, I made mistake, but I've done tshuva. I've purged myself of my sins. Who can say that in front of God? People say things all the time that maybe I don't know the truth to it. You don't know the truth to it, but God knows the truth to it. Even va'even efa ve'efa toavat Adonai gam shnehem. We've had this about 4 or 5 times in this book. false weight and false measures. Both are an abomination to God. In the Torah, it's clearly talking about what you're selling in the marketplace, right? You can't have a false weight, so you can't charge more than what you're giving. But here, this is presumably in the aftermath of the last verse. It's not just referring to that literal idea, but the idea of displaying yourself as a false weight, displaying yourself as a religious icon, as a great person, etc., etc. Right? God knows that that is an abomination in terms of the way a person presents themselves. God, a child may be dissembling in his behavior, even though his actions are they're blameless and they're proper. So, right? So we can understand from a child much about their parents, much about the way they were brought up, what they say, the words they hear. Then shomat be'ayin ro'ah Adonai asa gam shneim, the ear that hears, the eyes that see. God made both of them. So, right, it's God who knows what you hear, what you say, how you present. You can present things one way, but God is able to see through it. Al tehahav sheina penti varesh p'kachenecha sva lachem. Don't leave love sleep lest you become poor. Lest keep your eyes open and you will have much food. So this is not many books have been written about the importance of sleep for your health, etc., etc. This is not denying that a person shouldn't sleep 7-8 hours a night or whatever, but you don't have to get up at 10:30. Keep your eyes closed, stay in bed. Things are not going to come to you. We got to work in this life is so many times the message of Mishlei. And again, if we think about it as Shlomo to his sons are born into extreme wealth. His sons are born as the future king, and not so bad to be the king's sons, even if you're not the king yourself and the king's brothers. But, it doesn't matter. Keep your eyes closed, keep lazy. Who knows what's going to happen? 14, Pasuk Yudal, Ra Ra Yomar Hakoneh Ve'ozel Lo Az Yitalal. Bad, says the buyer. But having moved off, he congratulates himself. It's not clear what this means. The commentaries try to talk about you acquire Torah through poverty and through suffering, that it's a difficult process. But when you get there, you congratulate yourself for all your hard work. Yesh sahav v'rav pnimim ukli yakar siftei dat. Gold is much, and jewels are everywhere. But wise speech is a precious object. Don't think I have to comment about that. Lekacho bigdo ki arav zar va'ad nokriya chavlehu. Grab his garment. Okay, take it as a pledge for an unfamiliar person, right? So if you don't know who the person is, take a pledge. You can't just rely upon somebody who's a foreigner that you don't know, right? Do you have a guarantor there? Take a pledge for that guarantee. I think of last week's Parsha and Yehuda, who leaves pledges with this prostitute and then goes to try to pay her. And of course, she's not there. And that prostitute turns out to be his twice former daughter-in-law, Tamar. So anytime I see verses about pledges and things like that, brings me back to that story. Arev leish lechem shaker v'achar yimale piu chatzatz. Bread, right? Food gained by fraud may taste good to a person, but v'achar, but later, what's going to happen? His mouth will be filled with gravel. Okay, he's going to pay his price for this. How commentaries say that this refers to adultery. The married somebody else's wife, you're going to end up dead. You're going to end up dead sooner than you would. Death penalty and things that were given in the ancient times, or right at the end of the day, you might have filled your mouth, but what was the point of it? Your mouth will be filled with gravel, and then you're going to have to deal with the terrible actions that you have wrought. Plans laid in counsel will succeed. Wage war with strategies, right? Always better, as I've said many times in this book, to take the advice of others. He who gives away secrets is a base fellow. Do not take up with the garrulous man. Do not take up with him. Just going back into 17 and 18, 17, right? The person who's fraudulent, and then he's going to be he's going to be down in the dirt. So perhaps 18 follows it, because when you don't do things by yourself, you get a good plan, you have a good idea, and you can be successful, not fraudulently. And maybe that's why 18 comes after 17. Continuing 20, one who reviles, one who curses his father and mother, light will fail him when darkness comes. He won't have their advice, he won't have their help at a time of difficulty. Nachala mivohelet barishona v'acharita lo tivorach. In a state inquired in haste will not be blessed in the end, right? You have to work hard. It's not just something that you can get. Al tomar ashalmara kavel Adonai v'yoshalach. Don't say, I will requite evil. Put hope in God, and he will deliver you. Depend upon God. Now, you got to work. You can't just sit in your bed and depend upon God, says in this book. But no, if you work hard, those who work hard seem to have the most luck. To'avat Adonai Eden va'aden, umos name mirmalo to. False weights are abomination to God. Dishonest scales are not right. Again, literal, or is this referring to how a person presents themselves? 24, me Adonai mitzadei gaver va'adam ma'yavin darko. A man's steps are decided by God. What does a man know about his own way? We're walking. It's like walking on a treadmill. You're not getting anywhere. God is the one who's going to decide where we go. Mokesh Adam Yala Kodesh V'achar Nidarim Livaker. It is a trap for man to pledge a gift rashly, right? When they're saying in shul, who's going to give 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000? Be careful what you give, and give thought to his vows only after they have been made. Don't give it without the knowledge that you actually can pay it. A wise king, what does he do? Like God before, whether it refers to God as the king or just generally, right? He can get rid of it. He just winnows out the wicked and he turns the wheel upon them. Ner Adonai nishmat adam chofes kol chadrei baten. The life of man is the lamp of God, revealing all his innermost parts. What exactly does this mean? Numerous different interpretations as to what this means. At the most basic level, refers to the soul. The soul is the lamp of God in the body. The soul permeates the entire body, the way God permeates the entire world, and the soul is the thing that should help that we should go with the idea of the eternal, the idea of how you get eternal is beyond that, right? This is by listening to God. Chesed v'amet yitzru melech v'sa'ad b'chesed kiso. Faithfulness and loyalty protect the king. He maintains his throne through faithfulness, or through chesed, through kindness. Kill them with kindness. Tiferet bachurim kolcham v'adar zkenim seva. The glory of youth is their strength, but the majesty of old men is their gray hair. That's what shows, right? Your youth is, you have still strength, but when you're older and you have the gray hair, or if you have no hair, then that shows your majesty, that shows your experience. And hadar, the word hadar also means beauty. That shows your beauty, all the experience that you have through life. Chaburat, last verse, petza tamruk bira umakot chadrei batem. Bruises and wounds are repayment for evil, striking at one's inmost parts. We don't always follow this sort of idea that in today's day and age, we know the great questions, which we'll get to in the next book, why the wicked prosper, why sometimes do the righteous suffer. But here in this book, very much, if you listen to God, things will be good. You become wise. You listen to the education, listen to the parents. As I've said many times in this book, if it was just so simple, or if it were just so simple, either way.